Hello and welcome to the FISHCAST. We are the world's first and foremost, most amazing Fishmans podcast. And today we have a special guest joining us. This is Mr. One Chops, or Jake.
Whatever you want to call him.
Hello.
There he is.
I'm a small little gremlin from the UK. I've been chained up, and I'm here to do the podcast at Sword Point. So yeah.
Okay, there he is. Don't listen to any of that.
He is joining us today to talk about Fishman's spiciest album. It's also their second full-length album, King Master George. It was released in 1992.
That is when it was released, 1992. Good year.
Yeah, so let's get into some of the background on this album. So after 1991, they released Corduroy's Mood the end of the year. So in early 1992, Fishmans were asked to compose the theme song for this Japanese sitcom called 90 Days Tottenham Pub. So the band wrote an early version of the song 100mm Chotto no, or about 100mm, for the show. And that song was also released as the album's debut single in February of 1992. It was actually paired with an alternate version of Anoko ga Nemutteru from Corduroy's Mood, sort of like as the B-side. And this was the only single from King Master George.
That is true. It's also very rare that I've heard, like the original single version. It's pretty hard to get a hold of.
Yeah. How do you feel about it being paired with Anoko ga Nemutteru, since they're from different projects?
It kind of makes sense because I feel like they're coming from different projects, but I feel like their sound pretty similar. They're both like rooted in like this sort of acoustic guitar, sunshine pop kind of sound, and I think they work really well together.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so that came out in February, and then in the summer of 1992, Fishmans recorded with this producer named Haruo Kubota. He was their new guest producer after they parted ways with Kazufumi Kodama in 1991. Kubota was mainly known for his anime and video game soundtracks, but I guess they had sort of like a rocky relationship, and I found a quote regarding these recording sessions. So as stated in Fishman's biography, recording with Kubota was frustrating and sporadic at times, making the growing pains of finding new footing significantly more difficult. In modern accounts, the band specifically cites one recording session as being particularly ridiculous, that being one night when Kubota was drunk off of sake. He decided to call the band in randomly to the studio and not much was accomplished. Such antics would result in a record that was inconsistent in sound, constantly jumping from one genre to the next. So that sounds like a wild time for the band. It really makes me wonder, like, the album's super chaotic, but I guess learning more about how it was produced makes me wonder how much of it was like intentional and how much of the chaotic nature of the album is kind of a result of these wild sessions.
It's a good question. I don't think any of us will really know, but it is something to think about when you take into account just how insane the album is. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. So they recorded that summer, and the final album was released just a few months later, in October of 1992. And yeah, it's very cluttered. It's like a crazy track list. It's very distinct from other Fishmans albums, just due to sort of like the freewheeling nature of it.
And
like, how do you guys?
Oh, sorry.
No, how do you guys feel about that in relation to just like sort of how it conveys the Fishmans aesthetic in a different way?
I'll let One Chop start here.
I mean, I don't want to get too into it because I will get into that in the adjective bit, but definitely I'm really surprised that the sessions were that tumultuous because it turned out really well, to be honest. I think this is their first like genuinely great album, I guess. And yeah, part of that is just the fact that it's so like discombobulated. They try so many just weird ideas all over it, and like it paid off so well, I think. This might be my favorite early Fishmans, so.
Nice, yeah, I agree. I think that like oftentimes we see this sort of like sophomore slump album with a lot of bands where like they'll have one successful single or sound like from the first album and the whole second album is just them trying to like redo that. But here it's like they almost go like as far away from that as they can, which is really interesting.
Yeah, good point.
And it's way more
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Like, the way that Chappie kind of drags, this does not. This, like, flies by.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It really is so interesting that after this debut album, and then, like, an EP like Corduroy's Mood, you get King Master George. Like, they weren't building up to it at all. It happened, and even afterwards, there's really no callbacks to this sort of chaotic whatever the hell this album was.
Yeah, like if late period Fishmans is kind of consistent in its sound,
Yeah.
like you can identify a lot of those albums as belonging to that period. Early period Fishmans is just like all over the place, and this album really defines that the best for me. A quick thing I wanted to mention was while I was reviewing this album, I came across, like the Fishmans Wikipedia page, which I think is great because it has so much detailed information on the band that we wouldn't otherwise have access to. But specifically in the section about King Master George, the writing used on the Wikipedia page is a little kind of like biased towards the band, I'll say. The sentence that I saw was, despite the experimentation of King Master George, Fishmans always succeeded in avoiding reggae cliches, keeping a dub foundation powered by Motegi and Kashiwabara's rocksteady rhythm section. Like, I agree with this. But I feel like that's kind of, it's just strange to see that on a Wikipedia page. Like, Fishmans was so great, they always avoided these cliches.
Also,
I just thought that was funny.
I love all these references to rocksteady, as if like Kashiwabara was just purely like a rocksteady bass player. Which, I mean,
Yeah.
I guess the influence is there, but it's like at least 2 times this Wikipedia article it's brought up.
Yeah. You can definitely tell that the Wikipedia article was written like by fans.
It's true.
And like
Oh,
that's not a
yeah,
bad thing. But also I feel like if anyone new is checking out the band, they'd kind of be like, okay, like do we need to phrase it like that?
Yeah.
100%.
Alright, so let's get into the cover art on this one.
Oh, man.
I love this cover art. Maybe not as much as Corduroy's Mood, but I feel like the orange color really fits kind of like the strange like summer vibes of the album.
Can you actually give me 1 second? I'll cut this out. Hey, what do you want? What? Oh, that's it. Okay, shut up. Okay, well. I hate
So
this place.
yeah, beautiful cover art. Shinji once again is rocking a fit. He's wearing this beautiful hat, and really cool font on this one as well.
Oh my god, the font. And since I'm able to talk about this, I own a physical copy of King Master George, and all of the art in the inside is honestly just as brilliant. The font
Gorgeous.
the font on the cover is great. There's all this like this art in the sleeve. It's all like green, and they're just like little scribblings of like men and animals.
Yeah.
It's insane.
The
Everything about
cover
this album
art
is
on our
just-
podcast actually is some of the art from the inside of King Master
Oh.
George, like that dog. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like this nice little 4-panel thing. I'm guessing just from the same time they made the cover. There's just a dog there, and you can see the cover. That's what it looks like.
And once again, I mean, the album, so there's sort of a trend already 3 albums in. The albums are all named after like these characters that we never get much explanation on. Like we had Chappie, and then we had Corduroy, and now we have King Master George. So I mean, like, is George the dog? Is that what we're assuming here?
I think these are just names, maybe. Part of me just thinks
Alright.
they wanted to use these names. I don't think
I
they're
just
any
want to
characters.
know.
I'm not sure.
And then my other main question for you guys about the cover is that Shinji has this easel next to him, and it seems to have like some artwork or a page standing up on it, but there's this blue circle that's like covering it up, and it seems to have been added afterwards. Like it's not part of the original photo.
Oh,
so
yeah.
what do you think is going on?
I don't know. It's a question that has eluded fans for a while. Chops, do you have any insight on this?
I think he's just working on a masterpiece.
You think so? You just didn't want to show off?
He should get that sold on to like a gallery as it is, because it's pretty perfect, to be honest.
You think so?
Yeah.
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 Almost
I
as
agree.
good as
My-
his fit. That is a nice fit.
My first thought was honestly that like they're censoring something. Like there was something on there that they
Oh.
couldn't have on the cover. Like and maybe not something inappropriate, but maybe like something that was like branded, so they just had to cover it up with like a circle. I don't know.
Maybe.
I like the idea that he's doing like a still life portrait of someone, and that's why he's covering up the big orange sheet.
Hey, you
Because
think
he's like,
so?
oops,
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I can't look at this.
Oh yeah.
makes you wonder.
It's such a strange cover.
It's so
but it
thrown
really
together looking.
Yeah.
it reflects the vibes of the album a lot.
Yeah, not only in color, but like the fact that it's just on this street or this sidewalk, and there's just this tarp. And there's an easel for whatever reason. He's got the hat and like these baggy clothes. It's just
It's
there's a
so
lot going
Fishmans.
on. It's so Fishmans.
All right, so let's get into our adjectives here. Any preference? Let's actually have one chops go first.
Ha,
on
you're
the
going
adjectives.
first.
Ooh, well, honored, first off. So my first adjective is on tempo because it's very on beat, very well played. Good job, guys.
Good one.
The second one is on brand because
Hey, wait a second.
like, oh sorry.
No, I was just gonna make a comment. How are these all gonna be adjectives that start
On
with
something.
on?
No. I was gonna ask beforehand if that's allowed, but I
You can
Oh, that's
do
fine.
it.
I'm sorry.
It's just a podcast. We're good.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, my second one is on brand because as weird as this album is, like it genuinely, like we said with the cover, is so Fishmans. Like it fits them so well. Nothing they did like just seems like a different band. Really, it just seems like a big, like huge extension of what they already were doing. And my third one is ostentatious.
Oh,
Ooh.
like that one.
Because now my definition is of that, I had to look it up just to check. It's characterized by pretentious or showy display designed to impress. It's not pretentious at all, but it's definitely kind of showy, and it's kind of, I do kind of get the vibe that it's like intended to impress you more than Chappie, which is just like kind of for chilling out, like good vibes.
That's true. I feel like there's less vibes present on King Master George and more just like, look at what we can do now. Like we showed you that we know how to play reggae music, but now we're just gonna do what we want to do.
Everything else, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Good adjectives.
Perfect. Those are great.
Ostentatious.
Chris, you want to go next? Oh, so yeah, One Shots had the letter O.
As you could tell.
And then you had N, or no, I had N. You had S,
I
right?
had S. That is correct.
S.
All right. So first one I came up with, it's a little cheeky. It's a savory, and not just because of references to savory food on the album, but it's you got sweet and savory. This is definitely more on the savory side of things. It's very high in sodium, I think. Sleazy is my second adjective.
Sleazy?
It's sleazy. I mean, not in any super negative or like gross way, but it does feel, and especially knowing like the process of like recording the album, it just comes across kind of, well, sleazy. And my last one, we got steamy. It's kind of a steamy album. Everything here feels like it's coated in this layer of dew and condensation. It's very warm and humid. And
Definitely a summer
delicious.
album, yeah.
It is a summer album after all, so it would only make sense.
Okay. A
My
sleazy, savory, steamy, sweaty experience.
Yeah, sweaty is another one I could have used, but I think steamy
Ooh.
conveys it a bit more. It's just me.
Yeah.
Got
definitely.
some rich flavors. All right,
Yes.
and then I had the letter N. So my first adjective was nimble. So I chose this one because the band really covers like a ton of ground here, with only a couple tracks sounding anything like their previous work. And some songs are also like super short. Like you guys touched on this earlier. The album is like 50 minutes long, but it feels like way shorter than Chappie, honestly.
It does.
Because I think it's helped by, there are like a lot of sort of interlude tracks or just like 5 or 6 second tracks that really propel it along. So it's very nimble. They're doing a lot of things very quickly. And then my second adjective was nutty, because it's just insane.
That's good.
It's just wild. Not much explanation for that. And then the third one is Nipponese.
Whoa.
Nippon being Japan.
Oh my
I feel like
God.
this is. Sorry. I feel like this is the most distinctly like Japanese album by Fishmans because it's their
Oh.
only album without any English titles on the actual release, and the overall vibe is very representative of Japan. Like when we think of Japanese music or Japanese culture in general, we kind of think of like zany like mascots and like food and just this general kind of, I guess, outlandish vibe that a lot of their other media conveys, like anime and their films. So I think this is probably the Fishmans album that does that the most, more so than really any of their other releases.
At first, when you said the adjective, I got concerned. I was like, what is he going to say here? But, it's actually a really interesting way of looking at it. And now that I
Yeah.
think about it, it is a very Japanese album because it's not because I feel like with Chappie, it's rooted in music that isn't typically associated with Japan, and even like
Yeah.
the music after. But this, since it kind of just has a mixture of everything, I guess it is quite the Nipponese album, if you were to say.
Yeah, when I find myself like listening to this album, I really picture myself like in Japan. It feels like humid, and I just picture that setting. Like whereas their other albums feel a bit more like dreamlike or like I'm in another place entirely. So yeah.
Wow, very good adjectives.
cool. So
job,
do you
Ray.
want to get into the track list?
Yes.
Yeah? Cool.
Okay.
All right. The opening track on this album is I Kotoba Chotai, or Give Me a Good Word.
いい言葉僕にちょうだいいい言葉僕にちょうだい
So, genre-wise, I think this is a good start to the album because it's probably one of the more familiar things here.
You think? Yeah, I guess so.
At
Agreed.
least in regards to their earlier stuff, yeah. But I feel like even though it has that sort of dub sound that they were going for in Chappie, it's way darker and like a bit more intense.
For sure, and I feel like there's a lot more. It's weird because it is a very like sparse and minimal track, but at the same time, I feel like there's a lot more going on, like structurally, and they're definitely trying out new things with like, especially with the ending. I don't know why it ends that, but I know coming a little early, but it's definitely it takes what they've already established that they know how to do, and they kind of turn it on its head a little bit, which is kind of what I think this album is all about.
Yeah, it's also like, I think just in terms of its dub influence, it's one of their dubbiest songs. Like the bass line here is super thick and there's like some very heavy use of reverb and echoes going on.
Very much so. And I think that's what I was referring to. There's just a lot of like, I don't know, it's just produced so well in all aspects. Like it's, again, it is minimal, but it just feels like such a large, all-encompassing track.
Yeah, the echoes and this like revolving synth create this kind of like hypnotic effect almost.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like you're getting sucked into like this new world.
What you gotta say, Chops?
I gotta say that Kensuke Ojima, the secondary guitarist of Fishmans, absolutely kills it on this song.
Oh my god, the guitar solo, yeah.
That's a great guitar solo, and that's not a member that I usually like notice his contributions. So this is like the kind of the one time where I'm like, he hit it out of the park.
It's so like it's almost like reminiscent of like a Jimi Hendrix solo in this like dub song.
Yeah.
It's really
Definitely,
cool.
it's all kind of
like a lot of the guitar
and-
solos on Chappie were a bit like more simplistic, but this one just like goes all out and it's just wild, and it's like
Yeah.
a different sound from any of their previous guitar solos.
Oh yeah.
And the song
Tasty.
is so haunting. Like this is, I
is.
mean, maybe you could say piano is a little bit haunting from Chappie, but this is like all out, kind of freaky a bit. I don't know.
It is, yeah. Like not only in vibes, but just like I don't know, even Shinji's vocal performance as well. I don't know. It's all just
Yeah.
It's a lot
They're
darker
like,
in tone.
Bye, bye, bye. Yeah.
Who's he saying bye to?
Why is he saying bye?
Why? Yeah, that's a good question.
For what reason?
And like Chris mentioned earlier, the end of the track basically that you have this echo of Shinji's voice and it kind of just keeps building until it reaches this almost like drone state, and it's very loud and then it just ends.
Yeah,
so
it, like,
it
they
doesn't
just-
really leave you in a better place than you started.
Yeah, it's like this feedback loop that just continues to like get like it like starts distorting, and I always have to turn it down because it's never quiet enough. Ugh.
So how do you guys feel about this as an opener for the album? Because I mean, like as a track, I love it, but like it definitely feels kind of distinct from everything else going on this record.
It's true. Chops, I'm gonna let you go ahead.
That's pretty much all I got on Ikotoba Chodai, but that's about it. I don't know why they ended it that way, and it really hurts. That's about it.
I think as an opener,
But it's a cool ending.
it is a cool ending, and I think as an opener, it's cool that it establishes the sound, but with the way it ends, it almost like indicates what you're going to experience for like the rest of the album. So I think it works great as an opener, and I think it works excellent like on a track on its own. So yeah, but I don't know what other track would have opened this album better.
Also, for as much as this was a summer album and it was recorded in the summer, it was released near the end of October.
True.
So if we think about this in like a Halloween context, maybe it works better as that kind of song.
You think it's a spooky song, huh?
Yeah, it's a spooky song. Also, we're not going to be really covering the lyrics in depth on this album due to just the length and like tediousness of doing that. But if we find anything interesting, we will be talking about those. So the song is basically just about being sad due to like the loss of someone
Is that
and
what it's
asking
about?
them to. give you good words or think about you. Yeah, he's saying goodbye, and he's like, it's basically like, think about me when I'm gone, you know?
Oh, wow. Oh, I actually never knew that. I guess it fits the vibe, like, a lot, but, you know.
All right, so let's get into the second track on this album, Dareka wo Sageso, which translates to Let's Search for Someone.
だから誰かを探そう誰かを探そう誰かを探そう
So this is a ska song.
Oh, man, it's a big old sing-along, let me tell you.
It's a big old sing-along. Yeah, it's led by this group chorus that honestly sounds like something you'd hear at like a pub or like a sports game.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of obnoxious, but it's like really endearing too.
I think what makes it endearing is just like the fact that it is like a ska song, but it also sounds like, I don't know, something about how it's produced or like the melody that they're singing. It's so triumphant and so innocent in a way. I don't know.
Yeah, do you want to talk about your funeral, Chris?
Well, someone had asked, let's just say someone, I was like, oh, what's a Fishman song you'd play like at your funeral? And one of the choices I gave was this track, only because like, you know, to kind of lighten the mood or kind of bring spirits back up, you want this big old sing-along ska jam with everyone, you know?
If you die before me, I will do that at your funeral.
Don't, that's, maybe you know,
I'll be like,
dead,
come
you can
on,
do whatever you
guys.
want.
So Shinji's vocals here are kind of similar to like how they sounded on Go-Go Club. I feel like they're really gravelly and they're full of like personality that he normally doesn't really convey.
Yeah. He's singing like a sexy old man.
Yeah. How do you feel about the chorus, Chups?
So this song reminds me of like the music they play in supermarket adverts in the UK.
Oh.
Now that kind of like made me not like it so much when I first heard it. It's grown on me because genuinely it is really feel good and uplifting, especially those harmonies at the end. They're like do, 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 do.
Oh my god, it makes it sound like a Christmas song.
Yeah, kind of. But no, I do like this song. That's pretty much my association of it though. That and 100 something, like the other song,
Yeah, they use
the
the same sort of like choir, yeah.
Yeah, it's like those are like sister songs for me, personally. And they both could easily be on a supermarket advert, but they're both fine by me anyway.
I feel that as someone who has probably only seen like 2 UK supermarket ads, I can picture what you're saying pretty well.
What do you guys have in the USA?
Oh, for supermarket? I don't know.
Like Sam Smith.
I don't know if there really are like TV ads. It's kind of just like people walking around with their carts and they're like, eat fresh. I don't know if there's really like music with them.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Who knows? So the song, like, you know, it kind of has this chorus again and again, and like 2 minutes in, it sort of dies out, and like you think it's over, but then it comes back. It's like Dareka, and like that's the point kind of for me where I lose interest, because I like the chorus, but it goes on a few too many times for me. Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I at least see where you're coming from. I'm not personally bothered by it. I do think it's hilarious though, like when it does that pause. And you're like, okay, it's over. And then you just hear him scream, Dakara! And then it like comes right back in.
Yeah.
Good
Must have been
times.
fun to record.
And I feel like, you know, there are so many like 1 or 2 minute tracks on this album that I honestly wonder if this would have been more successful, like if it had been cut down to be like one of the shorter songs and it just sort of comes in.
Yeah.
But I mean, for what it is, I like it. The lyrics here, they mention like stumbling in the street and also too many bastards.
They do
So
say that.
I think that is sort of what I picture. I just picture like a lot of men kind of like being sweaty and like singing along. They're all drunk. That's the vibe of the song.
They're all Japanese. It is.
Yeah. What do you guys get out
think-
of the sort of the tone?
The overall tone, like, or
I don't know.
instrumentally.
Like, what do you think the song is about? I guess.
It strikes me as like Shinji kind of like searching for love, I guess. Like when he said, what the chorus is like, "Let's search for someone" is the translation. So to me, that's
Yeah.
like him trying to kind of find a romantic interest, I guess, and doing that, like going. The thing about like there are many bastards, etc. Like, and he's kind of, it seems like he's waiting somewhere till morning. It seems like he's, I guess, going on a date in like a tricky part of town or something. And there's no trains back, so he's got to wait until morning. Da, da, da. So it's like, I guess it hits me as like a kind of the growing pains of like dating. I guess just the dating scene in Japan, maybe.
Oh, you think so? That's
Yeah, I get that.
interesting. Because we go from like like a pub, bunch of sweaty men like singing this chorus along, to like a search for like a romantic love. I think that's.
But I can see that because I mean, if we're interpreting this as like a search for romantic love, then maybe all the men in the chorus, it's sort of just like the male youth of Japan, just like all going out and like searching for someone to be with.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's awesome. I like this.
Yeah.
What a great
Nice.
song.
You know, you guys maybe like the song more. Like before, and I think I would still say that this is my least favorite song on the album. But it's really close. I don't dislike it at all. But, you know, now that I have this interpretation, I might sort of improve my view of it.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other thoughts on that one?
Not really. I used to. I don't know if I used to call it my favorite song on the album, but it was the song I liked playing the most, only because I really like the chorus like a lot more than I should. I think
It's definitely memorable.
it is. Yeah. Other than that, though, that's all I got for Daikawa Sagaso.
Cool. So then the third track is a seafood restaurant or Shifudo restaurant, which is hard to say without sounding kind of racist, but here we go. I consider this kind of like the first skit song on the album. Like it's around 2 minutes long, but it feels sort of a bit like more slight than the other tracks. It's basically like a punk sequel to the last track. Like we have some more group vocals, but everything is really sped up, and there's like some crazy synths just like beeping around.
It's a real funky track. It's after that last track being kind of like annoyingly like joyous. This track is full on like
chaos.
It's full on aggressive in what it's trying to do.
I think the real highlight here for me is Motogi's drumming. Like oftentimes his drumming kind of fits right into the pocket, and it's just really like it serves the tracks. But here he's definitely like standing out, and he's helping like propel it to this new place.
Oh yeah, and like the beginning, I think the way it starts off, like this delay effect that's like being like sped up, and it just sounds like a bunch of noise, and eventually like they just come full in with that drum blast and everything. Oh my god, it's perfect. It's a perfect song. It's a ska song, but that
It is.
I like ska music, so it's not a problem.
But I like this one. Yeah, it definitely conveys like running around a seafood restaurant. And it makes me want to eat some popcorn shrimp. Makes me want to head down to like Joe's Crab Shack.
Hey,
Do you guys have Joe's Crab Shack in the UK?
Oh no, never heard of it. I'm afraid.
It's this
I
like
gotta
it's
ask
sort of
you.
like Yeah, what?
Oh, sorry. I want to ask, do you
Oh,
guys
you're
have Wagamama in the US?
I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry.
Well, there we go.
That was
I
a
like
bit
how this track
interrupting.
made
Cut
us
out.
both think of like. Oh no! I like how this track made us both think of like different seafood restaurants. That's cool. No, on our Instagram, like we follow each other, and then we also just follow the official account of Joe's Crab Shack. So if anyone from Joe's Crab Shack is listening, like please sponsor us. Like we'll gladly advertise you because we are a fish-based podcast.
Well, I don't
So-
really like crab.
I'm fine with it.
I'm not a big seafood
Is this
guy.
the only Fishman song that's actually about fish?
No?
I mean, other than the other two, like I Dub Fish and Fish is Watching
Oh,
You,
true.
I'd say yeah. I'd say it's pretty much
Fish
yeah,
is
the only
Watching
one
You.
I'm like.
I was gonna say,
It's true.
I know, I think Weather Report, if I remember correctly, there's a reference to fish. I think I remember him saying sakana, but I don't know if he's saying fish or like another word that I'm mishearing.
Oh no, I think he is saying sakana actually. Okay, but this
So
is
there you
definitely the most explicit one. Just it's about eating fish.
That's true.
So we have a couple different translations of the lyrics. The one that I found on Google Translate, which is probably wrong, was "Let's eat fish, sprinkle with gasoline, a burning fire, outstanding lobster." And then the one that Chops did was
Based off interpretation.
also sprinkled with gasoline, in the forest cherry fire, stunning Issei shrimp, let's bake and eat. So there's sort of a discrepancy in like what type of fish they're eating, whether it's shrimp or lobster, but we know that it's being sprinkled with gasoline, which I think is a really cool image, and it kind of like conveys the chaos of the song.
Kind of the album too. It kind of just feels like something that most people would enjoy being covered in gasoline. Not necessarily set on fire, but marinated in healthy pile and a healthy bucket of kerosene.
Yeah. This is like really high up on the album for me. It's probably out of like the shorter songs or like the skit songs, it's probably my favorite one.
Really.
And it really just shows you like we're only 3 tracks into the album, but we've already had like this trippy dub track, this crazy ska song, and then whatever this is.
Ska punk.
We're all over the place already. But yeah, any thoughts on that? Does it rank really high for you guys or not?
I quite like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know how high it'd rank. I look forward to it coming on, especially after the second track. I don't know how often I like come back to the album just to listen to that one though. It's really good. I think like in relation to all the other skid tracks, it's one of the better ones, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, so the 4th track is Kage Dorobu, or Shadow Drop. And right off the bat, this is like my favorite title of any Fishmans song ever.
Pretty cool. Well, actually, Chops, don't you have a different translation for the title? What is it again?
Oh, like Shadow Thief?
Shadow Thief. That's still really cool too.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah. Either way is totally fine. Shadow Drop is what you said, right?
Yeah, that was how it shows up on Genius on that translation.
Interesting.
But I have no idea.
We're not
That does change it a bit, yeah.
But yeah, and just the way that like Kage Dorobu sounds, I think it really conveys just like sort of the vibe of this track. It's kind of a return to the feeling of the first song. It's a little bit darker, and it's back in sort of like that dub sound. And the vocal melody here and Shinji's delivery of it is really what makes the track great for me. Like it's super emotional and powerful.
It's interesting that you say it's dark, because I don't actually really hear it as being dark per se, like in the same way that the first track was, but it's definitely got a bit of like longing to it. It's more like melancholy than anything. That's just
I get that.
Yeah.
Basically, it goes between these different passages where it's kind of restrained, and then the chorus, it like explodes. And like about halfway into the track, Shinji really goes like an octave up, and like all the instruments kind of burst behind him, and he's really just like straining to get the emotion out. And then near the end of the track, it slows down and goes into like this new section where Shinji sounds like totally fucked up.
Yeah.
He's like slurring his words and he's like growling.
Oh man.
So it's insane, honestly.
It used to be a track that I didn't really care for. It was a track that I would listen to. Like if I was listening to the whole album, I wouldn't skip it. But it's definitely grown on me a lot more. Just like listening to the emotion in his voice, the melody that he's singing in the verses, and that ending. The ending really adds a whole lot to the track, I think.
Yeah, like at least the way I interpreted it is that his emotion gets like so strong within the main song that the end he's kind of just like drained, and he's just like he doesn't know what to do, and his words are just coming out sort of like a growl.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this one, Chops?
Not a whole lot of thoughts here. I really like it because I used to not like the second or third songs, so this one was like, oh, back to music I like
Back
now.
to the
But
good stuff.
that's changed a lot.
Nice.
I love Seafood Restaurant, but I still love this one just as much. Like I feel like the fact that it goes from such a kind of peaceful verse to like such a really dramatic chorus is something that you just would never have got on Chappie, among other things on here that would never have been on Chappie. So yeah, I don't know. A really welcome song. It works perfectly fine. And yeah, the ending really, he sounds like drunk out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Nah, all around it's great. Love it.
Yeah, you make a good point there. Like, I feel like on Chappie, not a lot of the songs really trying to convey any sort of deeper emotion. It was kind of just like, here's a cool song, or like, this is a really pleasant melody. But on this album, we really start exploring some darker emotions, but also some like really, like super upbeat emotions. Like, there's just more diversity in terms of what we're feeling here.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, no, this isn't one of my favorite tracks on the album. It's probably near the middle, but I feel like it's like criminally underrated.
I think
like
so,
I don't
too.
really hear people talk about this one a lot, and just in terms of like the variation that we get in the track, and just it's very solid. So I think you should check it out if you've kind of listened to this album and skipped over it. And that brings us to the 5th track, Diving. This one is really sort of an interlude. We have this like twinkling intro and then some bubbling synths. It sounds like we're underwater with the title.
It does, yeah.
And Shinji's vocals are also kind of like affected to give the impression that he's like distant or far away.
It's are we gonna be talking about this track for a long time? It's like a minute long.
Nope.
I think
It's like a minute long.
even in relation to like the other interlude tracks, this one feels like the most like insignificant. Like I don't know if it's like my least favorite of these so-called like interlude tracks, but I almost forget about it, despite the fact that production-wise, it's like a really interesting song. Like this drum sound and these synths. There's also like when the drums finally hit, there's this really high frequency that just kind of pops in for a little bit.
Oh yeah.
And it's such a weird track, especially considering the 2 tracks that are around it, like, you know, Kagedorobo and the next track. It's diving. Feels like you're diving in a pool of gasoline and shrimp.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa. Any other thoughts on this one, or there's not much going on?
Great track.
Short, sweet, beautiful. I love swimming, so this kind of, I don't know, I just like the imagery.
Yeah, you relate
Even though
to
there's
it.
not much going on, it's still pretty welcome.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I feel like this really serves super well as like kind of an intro to the next track, which is Mineral Water. Like the synth sound that we get in Diving and the one that begins Mineral Water is kind of similar.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they kind of go together like a pair. So yeah, we get this sort of very like mechanical guitar riff in Mineral Water and Shinji's repetitive vocals just going like Mineral Water, Mineral Water. And there's all these like these bleeping synths around him. It makes me picture Shinji sitting in like a call center for like some office job, and there's a lot of like phones and computers just like humming along around him. I don't know if that was intentional at all. Probably not.
Oh, I don't know if it was intentional. It's a really cool way of looking at it.
Yeah.
You know, the track...
I like that idea.
Yeah, this might be a little strange, but the track always reminded me of, like, basketball, and I don't really know why. It might just be, like, it just reminded me of, like, playing basketball, like, in the evening, like, you know, at the park down the street.
I cannot relate, but that's cool.
No, like, I think it's just, like, the beginning synth sound. It reminds me of another song that reminds me of basketball, and I think that's what it is. I just had to get that out there.
Okay.
Anyway, Mineral Water.
Food for thought.
It gets pretty like psychedelic towards the middle too. Like we have this really funky guitar and kind of like these swirling effects. And then there's like Shinji just starts kind of like moaning a little bit. He goes like like around the guitar licks. It's just I don't know. It locks into this very interesting groove. Like it's not super propulsive, but I don't know. It's just comfortable.
It's not super propulsive, but I feel like it's always, I don't know, the rhythm that everything's playing, it all like locks into place in this really oddly hypnotic way. There's a nice little clunky melody that happens in like the pre-chorus, and that's really nice. I wanted to point that out. And yeah, it's a very like strangely like groovy, atmospheric track with a lot of psychedelic tendencies, especially like near the end with that like swirling piano mess. All these tracks have like really strange endings, and I'm not really understanding it.
Oh, and Chops, do you have the lyrics in front of you for this? Because they're really interesting if you want to talk about them.
Oh yeah.
Specifically like the way the song ends.
I'll get them up. I will say though, one thing I like about this, I mean, I know the first lyric is like Tsumbatai shower, so it's like cold shower, I think. That bit in the middle where all the effects come in and kind of start shimmering, that feels like you're in a shower and it's suddenly changed from like hot water to cold out of nowhere.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh,
Not a great
yeah.
feeling, but it feels great in this. So
I know what you mean. It's a really cool way of looking at it.
So yeah, these lyrics they're pretty repetitive. So like cold shower, shower, happy shower. Let's go take a shower. Let's go take a bath. Let's go take a shower. Mineral, etc. The ending you say, oh, take the dog,
Yeah.
take the dog.
The
dog.
dog.
This is his dog. Is it the dog on the cover? Or
And then the last line is just like, "Hey dogs." It's very strange.
it honestly might be like lyrically and instrumentally the most like elusive track on the album. I have
Oh yeah,
no clue
and
where it's
I'm
coming
thinking like, if this was in English, we would probably think it was like ridiculous. So it's one of
yeah.
those songs that I'm glad it's in Japanese because I can enjoy it a little bit more. I don't have to hear him singing just like cold shower. But yeah, it's definitely kind of an elusive vibe.
from. Elusive vibe. That is definitely what's going on.
Because like I can't pin down how it makes me feel, but it makes me feel very strange. I think what Chop said about the water changing temperatures was probably like the most accurate.
Yeah, I think that like that
Yeah.
small moment in time when you make the realization that the water temperature is changing, just extend that
And you're
over the
just
period
like,
of the track, and that's
"Whoa."
what it is.
It's like a
That's it.
pulse stretched water change. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, an ever-present feeling
Alright.
of confusion and discomfort. But it grooves.
Oh,
you know?
I don't like it. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Is this in any of your guys' top threes or no?
I don't know if it's not my top three.
I love it, but no.
Yeah, I love it a lot.
neither.
It's definitely like in the top of the album. Like it's definitely higher than the middle. It's a track that I
Yeah.
don't know. It's a confusing
So
one.
just to be clear, we're 6 songs in and no one has had a song in their top 3 yet, right?
I suppose.
I'm
I
forming
suppose
my
you're
top
right.
3 as we go. I still haven't decided on it yet, so.
True. I think
Okay, cool.
the first track would definitely be high up there though. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
top
Yeah,
3,
same.
but it's definitely, you know, maybe top 15.
Okay. And with that, let's get into the 7th track. This is Nantetano, which translates to What Was That? So once again, I think we open with kind of another similar synth sound to the ones that we've heard in Diving and Mineral Water. So I think those 3 songs together really form like a nice sort of trilogy. Like a lot of the album doesn't feel very cohesive, but at least through Diving, through Nantetano, it feels like we're listening to like one cohesive thing.
I get that.
The keyboard refrain here sounds like elevator music or like hold music to me. I don't know if you guys get that.
I get that, but I
the
take
best
it
way.
Yeah, in the best way. I take it you're not meaning
Oh, yeah.
any, like negative connotation.
No.
It's such a
I love it. It's very soothing.
it's one of their better melodies. Like I know this is one of the more like iconic tracks, and I can see why. It's also definitely the first track on the album that I think a lot of people can listen to and enjoy. It's definitely this is where they start getting a little more accessible. It's just funny
Yeah.
considering the track again before and after it really shows the volume of like crazy stuff they're going with this album. You know.
Yeah. And then also for me, yeah, I really enjoy it. I feel like it almost goes into the background a little bit too much. Like I get what Chris is saying. Like it is a bit more accessible, and they definitely tone down some of the more like wacky elements that have been going on. I don't know if that hurts it or helps it for me, but it definitely is placed at a good point in the album, because I feel like if they put another really like strange song after that last run of songs, it would have been a lot. So this one kind of like lets you take a little breather.
And I think like
It's-
I love like every section of the track too. I think that's another thing for me, because I know, at least from what I remember, you said this track like I know you like it, but isn't it like somewhere in the middle for you?
It's for me. Oh, it's near the bottom.
You're the that's just
No, but like I said, like the only song on this album that I really could say that I like maybe dislike is Sagaso. So this one, yeah, no, I really like it, but it doesn't do enough extra things for me to really like make it stand out in my mind, I guess.
I got that. I just think the fact that they can tone down like these really experimental tendencies and just make like a really like, beautifully made like pop song like this, it not only
Yeah.
shows their like their ability to write really good songs, but just
I know.
Fishmans. You know?
Chops, thoughts on this one?
Okay, so this one I love, but the thing is, let's say I was introduced to it in a better version. on a certain later album.
A certain
So-
live album.
Interesting.
A certain, maybe. So I can't say this is like my favorite version of it, which kind of makes me like I was thinking this would be my number one favorite on here, but now I'm reconsidering, kind of.
Really?
So I'm gonna still say I love it because it's just a fucking good song, but it's not my favorite recording, I guess.
I get that. Again, we're not gonna really dive into this other album you're alluding to, but I will say between
Sure
the
thing.
two, I love them both for different reasons. I just feel like with this one, there's more, since the production's a lot less like cavernous, there's a lot more impact with like the piano chords that happen like in the bridge and everything. I don't know. They're two
Yeah,
very
it feels a
different
bit more personal on this one.
versions. Yeah, which isn't a problem. Like it's not to any detriment to the live version, but I think this one,
Yeah.
especially in the context of this album, is really good. Very good track.
Yeah. Not
And
single,
just a
though,
disclaimer.
Somehow.
Chris and I have like this really shitty like ex-friend, and this is his favorite Fishman song. So just knowing
Oh,
that
no.
makes me like it a little bit less because I just picture him like jamming out to it, and I'm like, nah. So Shane, if you're listening,
No, that
like,
sucks.
great song, but I don't know, man. So yeah,
Anyway.
the lyrics here are really sweet. It's kind of almost about like when you're getting new feelings for someone and you are kind of like surprised by what's happening. Like he talks about finding something this summer, like a new wind. He doesn't want to lose this feeling, which really ties in with the title. What was that? It's almost like he is like, oh whoa, like what is this? What is this feeling that's happening to me? So, and I think it really conveys that very well. Like you're kind of being swept up in just something kind of pleasant, and you're not sure where it's gonna take you, but you're just going along with it.
Oh, a really great interpretation
Shinji is
from
one of the
Brett.
great romantics, for sure.
Shinji's
Honestly.
in love.
Well, while he's also a great romantic, he's also quite a bit of a foodie as well.
Hey, track number 8. This is hamburger or hamburger steak, depending on where you're looking. This was actually one of the first Fishman songs that I ever heard, which was
Yeah.
very strange for me. I think I had heard Long Season, and then I was asking Chris like what other songs to listen to, and he's like, haha, listen to Hamburger Steak. So I looked this up, and I was like, oh god. But now, in the context of this album, I really love it. It's one of the shorter interludes, so I think we should just read the lyrics here.
Okay, go.
We got, I want to eat a hamburger steak. I think so. I want to eat a hamburger steak. That's right. The snack is a Kit Kat.
Woo.
So
Bars. If I
he's
could
eating a
say so
hamburger,
myself.
he's eating a Kit Kat. What's happening? Why is this here?
Well, he's using the kit. It's like dessert. You know, he's
Yeah.
a nice juicy hamburger, and you know, a Kit Kat.
Hamburger for dessert. Huh?
No, I meant
Oh,
the
no,
Kit
no, I
Kat.
got you. Wow, I'm dumb. I'm sorry.
Oh man, you know, after a Kit Kat, I like to, you know, settle down with a nice cheeseburger.
Well, he does say oyatsu is decided by Kit Kat. So oyatsu is the Japanese word for like a small snack that you eat. So it seems like he eats the hamburger and then he eats the Kit Kat as sort of like a palate cleanser
Interesting.
or a little snack afterwards. This is Shinji on here, right? Do we
It
know that
is
for sure?
Shinji. I think every vocal
His
comes
voice
from-
really sounds strange.
I think because he's going for a really deep, like really strange sound in his voice.
Like a hamburger?
And honestly, like listening to a few like other like live recordings where like he like talks to the audience or he's just like using his more normal voice, it does make more sense. Like if you're just used to like how he sings, it's a bit strange, but
Yeah.
it sounds about right.
In terms of like album placement, this one is very strange because it comes after Nantatana, which was just like this pleasant vibe, and it comes before Chotono, which is like a more upbeat track. So I don't know if it fits here, but I think it like placing it here really adds to sort of like the strange narrative of the album.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a good placement. You know, you got Nanfitano, you got the. We can talk about the music in a little bit, and then you got Hyakumiri Chotono. The music, though, you know, for the 30 seconds that it is there,
Oh god.
what like with the other ones I can kind of pin down like what they were going for. Maybe it was like a really deconstructed like ska sound, or it was elevator pop music for Nantatana, but this is just they just played. They started and they just played whatever they wanted. And
I wonder if this was one of the tracks that they recorded the night when their drunk producer called them into the studio. It definitely has that vibe.
Definitely. I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh. Anything else on this one? It's kind of brief.
It is like I think, at least between you and I, and a few other people I talked to about Fishmans, this is definitely like oddly like one of their most iconic tracks. It's definitely like their most like memeable tracks. It's called a hamburger. You got it. Other than that, though.
Not to always relate everything back to Gorillaz, but there's that song On the Fall that ends it, Seattle Yodel, which is just like 30 seconds of yodeling, and that's the end of the album. I feel like this sort of has a similar energy where it's become like a meme in the community. Like everyone loves it, not necessarily for like its musical qualities, but just because it's so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. I forgot Chops was here. Hey, Chops.
Hello.
Hey.
I think they just threw this in because they recorded Nantatano and they were like, okay, this is getting too serious. We need to King Master Georgify it a bit.
Yeah, that's my other question is like I wonder how much of this album was recorded in order, or like how much of it was just assembled afterwards. Like we know that Chotono was recorded first, but I wanna like sit down with the surviving band members and just ask them like about the sequencing and like how they determined it. Because honestly, if they said that they just like randomly decided which songs were going in which spots, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, well, maybe this is a signal. Maybe we should get in contact with the boys. Hey,
boys,
if Motegi's listening,
come on the show.
Hey,
Motegi, come on the show.
Let's go. And
track number 9 is 100 millimeters Chotono, or about 100 millimeters.
笑いを忘れた恋人たちには新しい明日が見えてくる涼しい顔した二人の気持ちは今もゆく
So this was really the song that got me into Fishmans after hearing Long Season, because I heard that in 2018, and then I really went a whole year without like being a fan of the band. And then I was driving around with Chris last December, and he just sort of had this one on, along with like I Dub Fish. And I think between these songs, sort of like the stylistic variety, because like I Dub Fish was just super weird, and this track was so just poppy and like kind of instant for me, that this one was really the one that I think of when I think of like getting into Fishmans.
That's true, and it was just kind of funny because that night I essentially played you all of this album, like out of order, of course, but like.
Yeah,
and this
was really the one that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think this was the one that they used for the TV show theme, and it definitely has that quality where it sounds like, like an anime ending theme. It's just very immediate and like triumphant, and I was already used to songs like that, so I think that's why I like it. The chorus of this track is just addictive.
It's so good, and I think like everything about the track, the structure, how it moves along, it's such a beautifully written song. It's one of like my favorite moments of songwriting, even though songwriting doesn't exist. It's a false concept. But if it did exist, this would be the best concept. This would be the best example of very good songwriting, I think.
Chris is just salty because someone told him that one of his albums didn't have any songwriting on it.
So anyway.
I feel like, there's this sort of other genre that Fishmans have been trying for a while on all their releases thus far. Like on Chappie we had Locusts Are Flying, and then on Corduroy's Move we had Onoka ga Nemuturu. It's sort of like this indie, like acoustic pop. And this is really like the best version of that song, I think. Like I think this is where they really hit the peak with what they were trying to do.
Absolutely.
There.
And especially since with that, like it isn't just like a sunshine pop, like indie acoustic guitar thing. I think they're also trying a lot more psychedelic elements with this track, with some of the synths and like instruments, especially that show up like in the outro of the track, like that extended, like those chords and the synths and everything. Yeah, you also got a bit of psychedelia in there, I think.
Yeah. And then Chops, you said earlier that this sounds sort of like a Christmas song.
It's true.
Or the other one does. But I think that you said it pairs with Sageso, because they both use this same sort of like vocal choir. I don't know if they actually brought in like a choir, but there's definitely some like female background vocals, it sounds like.
I was kind of thinking it sounded like Shinji, but that's just me.
I mean, he's got that falsetto, so maybe.
Perhaps. I mean, he's got that falsetto, but I think plenty of times he still sounds like a man. There are a few times where you could convince me otherwise. I'm trying to word this in like a good way.
Oh yeah, no, one of the main things I hate about Fishmans discourse is like showing people Fishmans and then they're like, that's a man? Like I played Fishmans for my dad. I played him Doyobi no Yoru. And he's like, oh, this is really good. And I'm like, yeah, I think he's a great singer. And my dad was like, he? Like, I just think it's dumb that like when that's what people get out of Fishmans. So I don't know.
Yeah, defo. I've
But
got
yeah,
pretty
we
much.
have. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was literally just gonna say I've got pretty much no thoughts on this song, except the vocal line is really kind of like cute, I guess, like kind of in like an adorable sense, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's like adorable, but it's also very like mature in a way. I think. I don't know. I think it might just be the fact that it is such a well put together song. It it shows like this level of like. It's hard to explain. This is one of my favorite tracks on the album. Just know
Yeah.
that.
I found that like the songs that I like more are harder to like articulate why I like them, you know? But yeah, in regards to that choir part, there's also like some really nice bells and like chimes that come in behind it, and it feels very wintry to me. So it's kind of strange here because the rest of the album is just like very, very much like a summer vibe.
Very steamy.
But this one also is kind of summery because it's like the summery indie pop, but it also has these sort of winter elements, which is good for me because I can play it any time of the year.
That's what it
Enjoy
is.
like,
Year-round
whenever.
pop.
It's just a year-round
Oh, yeah?
festival. Cool. The lyrics on here, it's sort of about just being in love. I like the line, "Please become absurd. Lovers who have forgotten to laugh, a new tomorrow will become visible." So it's kind of just like looking forward into the future and hoping for something better.
Which makes I actually don't know what the show's about, but like I saw the intro like that this was playing over. Like someone had posted
Yeah.
a video about it, and it worked really well. So.
Yeah, I know it's just like a sitcom, so I'm assuming it sort of has like a lighthearted, like funny vibe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like this would work really well with it. Track 10 is Unreliable Angel or Tayori Nai Tenshi. This is another great title for me, right up there with Shadow Drop.
Oh,
Both the
man.
English and Japanese just sound really beautiful.
Hey, we want to talk about
so-
top 3 tracks.
Hey, have we finally got one?
Yeah,
I
this
don't-
is like top 1 tracks. So,
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
did you not? Oh,
I thought it was something else.
Oh, okay. Top 2 tracks. I almost forgot. It's a whatever. Let's talk about the track. That's important.
Cool. So when I first heard this album, like this was actually my least favorite song on it because I thought it was like too similar to some early Fishman stuff. But the live version on 98 really opened this one up to me, and now it's like one of my favorites on here. Although I think sort of like what Chops was saying with Nantetano, this one sort of suffers for me because it's not as good as the one on the live album. So when I hear this one, like I'm enjoying it a ton, but I honestly just kind of want to go listen to the other one.
It's funny that
But
you say that.
it's still great on this album. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because I think I would say the same thing I said about Nantetano about this one. I feel like they're not like wildly different. I just feel like I will go to this one. I feel like it's a bit more, it's got this sort of like 80s to 90s like dream pop sound with like those synths that sound like voices, like those like choir like synths and everything.
Oh, yeah.
The ambience of this track is, I feel like, is a lot different from the more like painstakingly like emotional aspect of the version on 98. This one is a lot more, I think what you said about Nantetano is a lot more personal, and that's the vibe I get with this track, at least.
Yeah, like this one, I feel like it's about something in the abstract. When I listen to it on 98, I feel like it's about Shinji and how he's about to die. So I think that's the difference. Is like I can listen to this one and kind of just feel like a little sad. If I listen to the other one, I'm just gonna like cry. So like this is probably the one that I would go to more often if I don't want to
That's one way of
suffer.
putting it.
His vocal performance on here is insane.
It's
I think
so
it's the
good.
best. It's his best moment on the album.
It's probably, like, especially in this early period, it might be one of his best vocal performances in general. Like this and Blue Summer for me, they really showcase like just how amazing of a voice he has. Like a lot of people know, like they hear his voice, like okay, it might be a little strange at first, but you know I think it works well in the context of the music. But I think this and Blue Summer, which is something else, they really showcase just how much he's like matured as a vocalist and just how he really knows to, he knows how to belt out those words. And
He knows what he's doing. How does this track make you guys feel?
sad.
Sad.
I mean, maybe not just outright sad. It's very bittersweet. The melody and the chorus and everything. It puts me in a very specific state of mind, but it's generally sad and contemplative,
Yeah.
and I want to cry.
I love the trumpet on here. I think this is, we get some trumpet later on in this album, but I don't think that is Shinji, so I think this is the final time that Shinji's trumpet really plays like a major role in a Fishmans track.
And it doesn't do a whole
Sort
lot.
of.
It like kind of plays up a few notes, but it adds like so much atmosphere to it, I think.
Yeah, I think like I said on Chappie, whenever Shinji plays trumpet, it's always very simplistic, but it sort of echoes like the way that he sings.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice. And on the live version, which we'll get to like years from now, they replaced the trumpet with something else, but I feel like the trumpet is honestly a little bit more personal and a bit more affecting.
It's funny. Do they replace it? I think they just take out the trumpet because the melody present on. Again, I'm not trying to get into it too much, but I know the melody there. It's kind of hidden. It's like played by like this organ behind the trumpet, which is nice. It's a nice little touch. Hey, Chops.
Hey.
Hey.
So
What you got?
this actually doesn't make me that sad, and I don't like the 98 version more than it. Like, this is
Really?
probably the better version for me. I think that's
Okay, I can see that.
the only song on that album that this studio version is better, myself.
Really?
But I don't know. A lot of it is honestly that intro, like the slow like fade in with that pad sound is so
Oh, yeah.
so freaking evocative. Like, kind of puts me there on that beach. Like, I imagine a beach with this. Not actually sure if he mentions in the lyrics, but that's just what I imagine.
I don't know if he
guess.
does. He does mention an angel though.
Yeah, it is a great
Yeah.
title for sure, and it's such like a '90s sound as well. I don't know if that's
I
just
agree.
me,
Yeah.
but it sounds so '90s in a kind of cool way. That's all I got, though.
That's what you got? Yeah. Tyro 19.
Yeah, the lyrics here are really like, I don't know, it's a lot for me. Like, take me far beyond the night sky, it's time to say goodbye, it's over, it's all over when a gentle angel comes down. It's not a lie, the future is so bright. Like, it really sounds like everything is sort of crumbling around him and he has no reason to like hope or go on, but he's still doing it.
Oh,
It's sort of
man.
like this prayer and like a time of desperation. So for me, it's just really hard to separate this song from like Shinji, because I just picture like what happens to him when I listen to the song, which is probably why it's so sad.
Damn.
Oh, man.
Damn.
You got me down now, man.
Yeah, right?
5:30,
Like,
I'm
just
about
reading
to
the
sleep
lyrics
now.
makes me, I don't know. Yeah. So, it's definitely great. And I think, yeah, this back-to-back with Chotono is just like, this really starts like the sort of final stretch of the album where every song is just like perfect.
And
So-
it also is the
Yeah.
middle of an odd trilogy of songs, because I feel like we had mentioned before. What was the other trilogy you'd mentioned of songs?
It was diving through Nantetano.
Titano. This one's a bit different, but I always like listen to these three songs together, and I'm not sure why. Like the track
Yep.
that's coming up, I think because it also shows this like huge stylistic like development. There's no consistency in
Yeah.
sound, but they all somehow fit on the same album. We can go into
Hmm.
the next track now.
Cool. So, track 11 is Tonakai, or Reindeer. So this track is entirely instrumental, and it's actually credited to a band called The Bottoms and not Fishmans. Do you guys have any idea who The Bottoms are?
I asked around, and I think it is Fishman's playing, but they might be covering like a song from the Bottoms, which might have been like a really underground Japanese ska / like rock band that was, Fishman's might have played along with a few times. Yeah, because I don't think Bottoms are credited like as playing the song. I don't know. I don't know who the Bottoms are though. Like
The main reason why I think that it's not Fishmans, or at least that they have other people playing, is the trumpet solo, because like we've heard how Shinji plays trumpet many times, and like this is not Shinji on the trumpet, and if it is, I would be very surprised. Like, this is a crazy like Miles Davis style like trumpet solo.
It's true.
It's going all like And I just can't really. I feel like they at least have some other like session musicians in on this track.
That could be it.
But I really don't know. It's a mystery. This is also the longest track on the album, which is really cool given like what it is.
Yeah. What a track.
You know
It's
what it
like-
reminds me of?
What?
Oh, sorry, I cut you right off.
Oh no, you're good.
I don't know if you know Pure Guava by Ween, but it reminds me of Morning Glory for some
I
reason.
know about Ween, but
I have not listened to that.
that sounds like
Well,
it makes sense.
it's not quite the same as this, but it is the same in that it's just this big noisy, like big mash of sound out of nowhere, where everything else was like normal songs basically. So
Yeah, because
that's
even
what I
on
was getting at there.
even on an album as like disjointed and like confused as this still feels like
Yeah.
the most like out there track. It feels like it doesn't belong with any other track, and in a weird sort
yeah,
of way
for
that
sure.
makes it fit the most. It's I don't know. It's the one track that like I don't really have many words for. It's such a wild
Yeah, like
time.
I don't really think there's another way that you could have followed up the last track because it was just so powerful that like I feel like if you just have some other like ska song or something after that, it wouldn't really work. But this is just kind of like so like vacuous and like open and just insane. So yeah.
You know what though? It's the only Fishmans song where there is a woman screaming on it.
Well,
Yes.
fun fact that always comes
So
out of
there's
nowhere.
that. I mean,
I-
that's my only opinion on the song.
Nice.
So
Yeah, it goes through. It's sort of like proggy, but not in like the way that you would think, and it's like very psychedelic. We start off with sort of like just noisy shit over some samples of people talking, and then it breaks into the trumpet solo, and then yeah, at the end we have just the woman screaming and sort of like a little trumpet outro. I don't know if it's really trying to convey anything. I don't know why it's called Reindeer.
Yeah, I also-
Maybe this is also a Christmas song.
Maybe. I like the bit of noise, like a bit after the trumpet solo. There's also like this bit of like feedback that like gets really loud, and like everything just kind of like quiets down for this bit of just pure noise, and it's oh my god, it's so nice. It's so cathartic. This track is insane. Like when the drums start, because the first like I would say minute or so is just like this collage of noises and whatever. But when those drums come in and that trumpet comes in, oh my god, it goes so hard. It goes too hard for a Fishmans track.
Do we know if they ever played this live?
No. Or, I mean,
No.
maybe they
Yeah,
did,
I
but
can't
really
imagine.
don't think they did.
Yeah. This is actually my number 3 on the album. I don't know if I said it earlier, but Choto no is my number 2. I don't know if I enjoy this enough that it's the number 3 on the album. I just have to put it there out of like respect for what they're doing, and it's just so interesting. Like it's definitely one of the most memorable songs here.
Absolutely. What about you, Chops? I remember you saying that you didn't really care, or like, I don't know. I'll let you explain.
this is definitely one where if I throw this album on the iPod or on the phone or whatever, like this is the one I'll probably just delete just so there's a bit more space on that phone. But I was listening to it the other day just preparing for this, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know. It is complete a mystery, obviously, but something about it, I don't know. It's kind of the part in the album where it most drags for me, I guess. But
Really?
I can kind of get caught up in the just complete chaos of it. So you know what? It's got its place. I dig it. I think.
I guess I mean, not really a question for you guys, but just for anyone listening, just anyone, I guess I could look this up, the etymology of tonakai, because it's written in katakana, which is normally used for like transliterating like English words. But the word is
Yeah.
reindeer, and I don't know where tonakai comes from. I don't know if that's another word that I don't know about. Because I know like, sorry, this isn't even about Fishmans anymore, but the word for bread in Japanese, isn't it?
Pan.
It's pan, which comes from Spanish. So I don't know if it's like a word in another language that they're transliterating.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know.
I was wondering that as well.
But anyway,
Is
great
reindeer
choice.
slang for something?
Maybe. You never know. Well, there you go. That was
Mysteries.
reindeer.
Reindeer. And then we get the highlight of the album, the 12th track, Kimi Dake ga Diamond, or Only You Are a Diamond.
君だけがダイヤモンドさ嘘だけど
This song is really like the first very short track. It's literally like 6 seconds long. Shinji just sings the title, and then he says, well, it actually translates to "You are a diamond," and then "It's a lie" at the end. So he's like complimenting you, but then he's taking it back.
What a fun little
Bastard.
track. It's for what it is. I mean, it's a pretty good 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I like how, because you know this by now, but we play the tracks for a little bit before, we start talking about them. This track will be done in 7 seconds, so we'll start. We'll just talk. We're talking longer than like the song actually runs. And
We're gonna get a whole ass copyright strike just for using the entire song.
Man.
Yeah, I think this is a great sort of follow-up to Reindeer, just because that track was so wacky. It would also feel strange to put something really highly structured after that.
So
we kind of just get this weird little transition. Diamond-san. Yeah, okay. And then the 13th track, this one is Ame Otoko Nikumeruru. Well, I said that wrong. Cut that out. Okay.
You want me to say it?
Again, you say it. The 13th track.
Ame Otoko Nikimareru.
Hey, and it translates to Rain Man, come around. I don't know if you guys have seen Fooly Cooly, but this sounds just like the soundtrack that the Pillows were doing for that anime show.
I haven't heard
Yeah,
I
it's-
haven't seen it.
The Pillows, I looked them up. I haven't really listened to their other stuff. They were active in Japan around the same time as Fishmans, so I don't know if they ever worked together. But it's sort of this very like youthful sounding, like almost like garagey kind of vibe.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the few Fishman's tracks that goes like really like rock influenced. This one has so much energy, almost like too much energy for its own good. I love the track. It's just it's 1 minute, but it still feels like 2 to 3 minutes for me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Not in a bad way. It's just it's a lot to take in.
Didn't just going back to the Pillows thing, I swear Shinji had like Pillows albums in his record collection.
You think?
Oh yeah,
might
I
be
wouldn't be
wrong.
surprised. Yeah.
Have you seen that list?
I have, and I noticed the song that we use as the intro for this podcast. He owns the album that song's from. It's the Congos.
Oh
Fish on
yeah.
the Congos.
Yeah.
He also owned like an I think he owned Straight Outta Compton, which is cool.
Nice.
Wow. So Shinji, once again, he goes completely insane. Mostly it's just like this straightforward rock track, but there's this weird outro where like there's this goofy sounding, almost like a clarinet noise, and Shinji starts like rolling his R's, and it's very strange.
And then, yeah, for such a short track, there's also just like a lot of sections. There's that part with that like rolling drums, and it gets like really fast, and he starts like kind of shouting and just saying words. Oh my god! Then it comes
Yeah.
right back in. I don't know. There's just so much going on. It's such a great track.
I think this is right up there with Seafood Restaurant for like my favorite short tracks on the album, just because of how much personality it has.
It might be my favorite between the two, at least I think.
It's such a blast. Yeah.
The lyrics here kind of just like about playing outside, saying it might rain the next day, but they're basically like, for right now, we're just gonna have fun, which is the vibe. And then the track ends with that sort of sample of like, is it like a weather lady or like a news person?
It sounds something like
Yeah.
that. And it transitions us. For some reason, this transition is so good from like this track to the
good.
next one, because I think like the way the delay is put on her voice and like the rhythm that the next track starts with, it like really goes together really well in like this weird sort of way. You know how it kind of like echoes out, and then like the drums start. I don't know. I just wanted to say that. Great transition.
Into 14th track, Zoyobi no Yoru, or Saturday Night. So this is up there for like my favorite Fishman song ever.
This is up there from like my favorite song ever.
Yeah, favorite song ever.
Damn.
Oh my god.
Do you agree, Chops?
It's not. Ooh. I'd have to really think about if it's in my top 3 of this album, to be honest. But
Oh, wow.
it's good. It's definitely good.
I know, this was, I think, when I first listened to the album, this was the one that really caught my attention the most. Not because it's super interesting or anything, but I really like the bass line and the vocal melody that Shinji was singing. I'm like, yeah, this might be the track. And it turns out it was the track. It's the track. Doyobi no Yoru.
Yeah, I was telling Chris the other day, something about it just seems like effortless. Like when I listen to a lot of songs, I can kind of tell like what they were going for, or like I can picture them sitting down writing the song and like what the point of each part of the song is. But here it's just like it just exists and everything flows together so well. Like the bass line is great, the synth in the background is amazing, the drumming is amazing, and Shinji's voice just fits it like a glove. So like I wouldn't really change anything about this track. Like everything is just so like locked into this groove. I don't know. I can't even talk about it. It's so good.
And that I don't know what you would call it in songwriting terms, but after that middle section where he's like Doyobi no Yoru, Guru Guru Mawa Atabakari, like that section right there, like right before it goes back into the chorus. Oh man.
Oh man.
That's really what I have to
Oh,
say.
it rules.
You're
It goes
right
so
about
hard, but it goes hard without trying to. I think that's why it's so cool. Like Fishmans, oftentimes they sound very like calming or emotional, but I think very few of their songs they sound like badass. But this is one of them. Like I just picture them all like downtown, wearing like sunglasses and suits, just like playing the song. They know how cool it is, and it's just cool. Like
Yeah,
God.
I think it goes hard because I think the groove of the track is so, like you said, it's effortless and it works so smoothly. Like it was just meant to happen. Like with the bass line, the drums, it's like, I don't know. It's really hard to describe just why this track resonated with me so much. Like the first time I listened to it, everything about it was just meant to be how it is. It is perfection by definition.
It exists. I will say the part where they kind of echo Shinji's voice, where he's like Yoru, Yoru, Yoru. It's like very cool, where it kind of builds back up. It's almost, it has like this sort of hip hop swagger to it,
I
even
think
though
that's
it's
what
not
it
really.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a hip hop track.
And in a weird sort of way, I think that's where it's coming from. Like, the rhythm of the drums and the vibe of the track. It's a lot darker, but it isn't dark. It's like it's like evening time. It's Saturday night, if I do say. And
Yeah.
It's
really, I mean, yeah, like I said, I can't really talk about it because I don't know. It's a level of perfection that I can't even like imagine.
Yeah, I think
So-
I think a lot of it's just since we love it so much, like we listen to it and we don't really think about it. We just know that we love it, and there's no point in thinking about it because
God.
it's already making us feel good. Man,
I am
You guys
feel
are making me
good.
want to go listen to it now.
It really is the track. I feel like it's such an amazing way to. I would say this is kind of the end of the album. Like this is where the album ends, and then we'll get into the next two tracks.
Yeah.
And I don't know. This is just such a great way to end it with something so familiar and something so well put together.
Yeah. I can see how someone might not think it's like a standout track because it's really not doing anything super different. Like this album is really defined by all of the risks that it takes, and I don't know if this track really takes any. But I think it's it succeeds because it's just so like it's what they've been trying to do this whole time, I think, and they really succeed.
Yeah, exactly.
At it.
Like everything, from like the atmosphere to the grooves to the bass line to the vocals, it's just, very, very definitively Fishmans in a way.
It is the GOAT.
Yes.
All right, so sort of like Chris said, this is like almost the end of the album. The final two tracks are both sort of like credits, and the 15th track is literally credits. It's called Tracklist or Kyokumoku Shokai.
さてお送りしてまいりました長編大作「ジゴロ俺が泣かした女たち」
This is just sort of like the looped melody from Nante Tano in the background with Shinji over it, reading through each track and who worked on it.
Yeah.
Hearing Shinji say the words Fishmans, Dub Mixu, and just his own name over and over again is very like soothing to me. I don't know if it was meant to be, but I'm just like, there you go, Shinji. You read the credits.
Yeah, his voice. I know I tell you he has like a deep voice, but especially on this track, oh man, I could listen to him talk. I mean, he could just be reading credits the entire day, and I'll be satisfied.
It's very nice.
I completely forget how wide his vocal range is, because he can go this low, like when speaking, and then his singing voice, like the highs he can reach, is ridiculous.
How do you guys feel about the choice to use like the Nansetana melody behind this?
I think it's the only melody you should use. Only because that what you said about it kind of sounding like elevator music or like weight room music, it makes sense. It's in the background. It's a nice background element, but if you pay attention to it, it's also a really great melody. So it's great to have, in the foreground or in the background as he's reading the credits to you, I guess. I don't know what other.
Yeah, it does help like the album's cohesion a little bit. Hearing that again, like for an album that's not cohesive at all, like just them bringing back an element from earlier kind of helps that out.
And I low key think that's maybe not like the best melody, but I think it's the most like. It's the melody I remember the most, and to have that be what kind of closes the album out, kind of like looking back on the album, it kind of makes sense. It's the one melody that's short enough and memorable enough to define what the album is as a whole. I think.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one?
It's credits.
It's credits, and then the final track is Kyoiku or Education. This is literally just 5 seconds where Shinji says that he's no good. Sort of almost like a joke at the end of the album saying like, well, this was bad.
Oh, I never really thought of it like that. Was he like talking about the album?
I mean, the Google Translate just said I am not good at all, and the translation that One Shops found was the product is not good. So I think if that's a bit more accurate, then I think based on the chaotic recording sessions, I don't know if the band was really like pleased with this album. Like I think they might have kind of just tossed it out there because it was all done, and they almost added this as like a disclaimer when the album's over. They're like, ha, there you go.
I never really thought of it like that, because I always knew what he was saying, but I thought it was in relation to just like the title, like he's not good at learning things, but especially when you tie it into like what the album is, it's oddly like the best closer. It's the best song on the album.
And that's also like another very like Japanese element to have this like album that you might sort of be a little dissatisfied with, but at the end you're like, oh, it's terrible. Like just being like so humble to just kind of like shit on your own album. But in like a joking way.
I don't know if I should.
There is, however, a third translation I can offer.
What is it?
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is accurate because this is back in the day. I tried to translate this when Google Translate was not as good. So this is probably wrong, but I just want to mention it because it's kind of funny. It basically translated as like, "This is no good, die." So I always interpreted this track as like, "Oh shit, I just died." As like another weird joke, kind of. Like the album's over and I just died. I don't know.
I think that's, even if it's not as accurate, that's definitely the best translation.
I like that.
After the credits.
That's how I'm ending one of my albums.
He's dead. That's like how a lot of little kids like end their stories. Like if they get to the end of writing a story and they don't know how to finish it, they're like, and then the character dies, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of fits this though. So that is King Master George. Before we get into like our top 3 tracks and moments, I had a question for you guys. This album, it really reminds me of The Life of Pablo by Kanye West.
Here we go.
I don't know if it's just because of the orange cover or like the crazy track list, but I think honestly, like what Chris was saying, how the album kind of ends at a certain point, but then it keeps going, is really similar to Pablo as well, because on that album we have like Wolves, and that's like the end of the actual album, and then you get some bonus tracks. And just like the energy of the albums and sort of the question of how much of their creation was intentional and how much was not. Because I know with Pablo, people came out saying like, this is like a cubist masterpiece, like the tracks aren't supposed to fit together. It's kind of just like insane. And a lot of the narrative of that album is like, Kanye, he's like, I'm insane and I'm an artist and like, this is how I'm going to do it. But you wonder how much of it was actually like meant to be that way. Same thing here. We know a little bit less about the creation because all we know is that it was kind of like a drunk, chaotic time. But it's just, I wonder how much sort of like chaos and disorganization can kind of lend themselves to making a good album, like by accident. And I was just thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can make an argument for anything. So, and it looks like he did. King Master George is Fishman's Life of Pablo. They both have names in the title.
This is true.
The Life of George.
I've always felt exactly the same way, and I'm glad you feel that way too. So I'm not just crazy. It does feel like Life of Pablo somehow.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm out of the loop here.
And I feel like people have the same complaints about them too. Like people listen to Pablo and they're like, "What is happening?" Like none of the tracks are like formed enough, or they're not like well thought through.
Some
But
of them
then-
are way more sincere than other ones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Some are
Like
more
there are some
jokey.
classic tracks here and like hugely emotional peaks that feel really genuine. But then like you were saying, like the last track you might just be like, I'm dead, or like this album sucks. So it's really hard to tell like how much honesty a lot of the album is met with. But it's
Both
great
of them-
nonetheless.
Both of them have a song that might be played by someone else. Like this one, you think Reindeer might be like someone else's song, I think, and then
Yeah.
Pablo has the designer song. So there's
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah.
Okay,
Conspiracy.
See,
I understand.
it's the same album, Chris. You have to believe us.
It wasn't that I never believed you. It was just because I knew you were going to talk about it. It's just something that yeah, you're right. They're very similar albums. Is that what you wanted to hear from me?
That's what I wanted to hear from you.
Okay, whatever.
All right, so let's get into our top 3 tracks. Chops, you can go first.
Go ahead.
Oh man, I'm still deciding. I guess.
Deciding?
Fuck.
Yeah, it's really tough.
I can go first if you want.
Chris, you go first.
Okay. Number 1. Actually, no. I'm going to start with number 3. I'm sorry.
Hey, build us up.
Build us up. Number 3. Oh, damn. What would my number 3 be? Okay. My number 3 track. It would probably be... Because I know my top 2. I would say probably Kakumiri Chotono. Or...
Okay.
It's between that and the first track, Ikotoba Shodai. I have to think about it a little more. That one, it's kind of a nebulous range for me, but I definitely know my top 2. Number 2 would go to Tairi Tenshi, Unreliable Angel.
Nice.
It's definitely one of the most deeply felt emotional experiences I've ever had with music. So I gotta give a big shout out to that track. And for my number 1, purely on vibes of just how, it's Doyobi no Yoru. It's Saturday
It's the
night.
vibe.
It's gotta be. It's always and forever. It's the track.
I like your top 3.
Thanks.
All right, did you decide yet, Chops?
Yep.
Hey,
so-
give it to us.
Like this would have been a lot more different if I did this when I just first listened to the album, but I'm gonna say number 3, Mineral Water, just because
Ooh.
I've never really
Cool.
heard anything that sounds like this. I don't think. Like it's such a fucking weird sounding song, but it scratches this itch that I don't get anywhere else. So
Can I stop you for a second and say that Mineral Water might also be my number 3? Is that okay? Just say it's
Are
kind
you
of,
switching it around?
Right.
Picked
Okay.
one,
Or are you
but
doing a 3-way tie for your third?
it's a tie between the other tracks. All
You
of
can
them.
do a 3-way tie. It's fine.
Okay. Sorry, Chops. You can continue.
nah, it's totally cool. So my number 2 is Seafood Restaurant.
Oh my
Ooh.
god.
Seafood Restaurant
nice.
is bonkers. Like that intro of that song used to drive me crazy. It used to really annoy me, but it just completely clicked. It's like a slap in the face with a big spicy fish, and I dig that. So, and the whole song kind of feels like that.
Covered in
that exact-
gasoline.
Covered in gasoline. Make sure.
Yeah. So I've got burns now. It's not great. But number 1 is probably Ikotobab Chodai. I said
All
that
in
wrong.
the beginning of the album. Interesting.
Nice.
Ikotobab Chodai. Yeah, no, that something about that one, just it being like one of the more haunting Fishman songs. Something about that, like, I don't know, always like from the first time, just completely intrigued me and has me fascinated. I
Yeah,
will say,
yeah.
if the O Mountain version of Doyobi no Yoru was on here, that would probably be top 3 too, because
Hey.
that one rules so hard. But
That's true. I will say, yeah, Doyobi no Yoru is already my top. It's my number 1 pick, but it's always a tough choice between that and the version that's found on the Liquid Room. That version,
Oh.
yeah.
With that Aphex Twin sample. Yeah, I just heard that one for the first time the other day, and it's insane. Like, there's like a very like electronic breakdown in the middle, and then like this rockin' outro. Yeah,
It's like-
everyone who's listening should really go check that out if you like Doyobi no Yoru.
Yeah, because I feel like it's very
I've gotta
similar
hear this.
to like the O Mountain version. Apparently, it seems to me like that was their vehicle for like experimental stuff, like in the middle. Like and like same with like Long Season, but that just kind of makes sense. There's different versions of, or like different ways they would do part 3, and the same with like Doyobi no Yoru, because there's that whole middle section where on the album it was just like this like rain stick and a nice little synth melody. But I guess they took that like on the live versions, they took that as a cue to just do the craziest stuff they could. So that's cool. Good choice. I really like the O Mountain version, but
Thank you.
yeah, good top 3.
All right. Yeah, no, that was definitely like the spiciest of all of our top 3s, I think.
Yeah, 'cause
like I think
That's
Chris's was kind of like not like the standard top 3, but it kind of has a lot of the highlights that are like agreed upon. And then I think mine sort of falls in the middle, but yours is just like, yeah, it's insane. I love it.
that's what makes the album itself. That's what makes it King Master George. So I figured
God,
I'm
you're
probably
right.
gonna
Yeah.
go with those.
That's true.
I was gonna say something. What was I gonna say?
Ooh.
Well, in regards to the Liquid Room Doyobe no Yoru, that's actually on YouTube. If anyone wants to go check it out, I really highly recommend it. It's insane.
Yeah, if you look
It's
up
amazing.
Fishmans, that's like one of the videos that comes up. So
Yeah.
that's how I found out
If you
about it.
Cool.
course.
For my top 3, the third would be Reindeer.
Nice.
Just like I said earlier, it's not necessarily like my third favorite here, but it's just like, it's insane, and I always find myself coming back to it. My number 2 is 100mm, Chotono, just because it's such like an iconic Fishmans pop song. The songwriting here, even though songwriting doesn't exist,
As we know.
is amazing. And then my number 1, along with Chris, would be Doyobi no Yoru. It's just perfection. It's immaculate. I don't know how they wrote it. I feel like they might have just like discovered it somewhere and just taken it because it's like too perfect to have been created by humans.
I think you're right.
And then for our bottom tracks, I already said mine earlier. It's probably Dare Kawasagiso. Not because I dislike the track, but just because it's the only song here that I really find myself kind of getting a little annoyed with after a while. What about you guys?
I guess, I mean, honestly, I might agree. I mean, I think I like it a bit more than you, but you do have a point. At a certain point, I'm not over it, but I do think it is just a bit too long. I don't know if it'd be my bottom track, though. I think...
I mean, I'm not really counting any of the interludes as being like eligible
Oh, no,
for that.
no,
Like
I
if you
know.
say that Diving is your least favorite track, I don't know if that really counts.
I was gonna say, like, please forgive me for this, but track 4, Shadow Drop, might be my least favorite.
Chris,
Not be-
Chris.
Again,
You're hurting me here.
I'm sorry. Like, I really don't mean it in any super negative way. I love the track. I would never skip it. I have nothing but positive things to say about it. But I think of all like the, relatively standard tracks on the album, I don't know, that's the one I don't ever think about coming back to, like,
All
on its
right,
own.
you're valid, Chris.
Okay.
Your opinion is valid.
Thanks.
What about you, Chops?
Oh, least favorite. That's really hard. I mean, especially if we can't do the interludes. Man. I guess.
I mean, maybe
is
Reindeer,
the-
because yeah.
Reindeer is the one I need the least, I guess. Like the album flows fine without it, or Nantatano is the one that I need the least because I know there's a way better version. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's hard.
It is a bit difficult. Just like picking my favorites on the album, it's a bit difficult. Like, I was also thinking,
Yeah.
should Reindeer be in my top 3? Should it be a 4-way tie?
No.
Okay, fine. Kick Hyakumiri Choto no in there. Have it be a 3-way
You're like,
tie.
my third favorite track is just all the other tracks tied.
No,
Pretty much.
I don't know.
Cool. And then in terms of moments on the album, you don't need to have 3, maybe just 1, but I had 3.
Cool.
So my third
I could
favorite
do 3.
moment was just like all of Hamburger Steak. I think it's short enough that it just counts as a moment, and it wasn't in my tracks, but I just wanted to shout it out somewhere. My second was the end of Rain Man with that crazy flute and just Shinji like going insane. And then my top moment on the whole album is the end of Kage Dorobu when it sounds like Shinji's trying to like squeeze out a massive shit, and he's just like, it's insane. Like what the stuff he's doing with his voice there, like there's no other Fishman's track that's like it, and it just every time I hear it, I like kind of forget that it is about to happen.
Yeah.
It always catches me off guard.
Honestly,
Chris,
that's...
what about you?
Yeah, that's the end of Shadow Drop is definitely up there for me, too. I also think between, like, the two, like... I would say probably the end of Ii Kotoba Chodai. That bit of noise and the way it just kind of cuts out, that is
Yeah.
a really solid moment. Like, either that or the noise on Reindeer was a really, really interesting moments for me. Maybe another moment, let's see. I would say that the part before the chorus comes back in Doyobi no Yoru, what I was talking about, like after that middle section with like the synth melody, when Shinji starts singing again, I think that moment,
Yeah.
oh yeah. Oh, like especially like in all the live versions, it goes so hard when, after all this craziness, like it comes back with that melody. And even on this studio version, it just feels right. It feels so good.
Nice.
Yeah. top 3 moments.
And Chops.
Ooh, so I guess my 3, and this is really hard. Like, as if choosing the tracks wasn't hard enough, because this is an album like full of moments
It's true.
where Chappie really wasn't. No offense to Chappie. Number 3. So the intro of Tayoranari Tensei. Sorry.
Close enough.
The start of Unreliable Angel, like that is just that beautiful of an intro.
It really is. I agree.
Number 2, this is a hard choice, but I'm gonna say the ending of Doyobi no Yoru, where they're just like Shinji's hollering the chorus and like the backing vocals are doing like this more long version of it, like a more drawn out, like da 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 da, like
Oh, yeah, I know
that's
you
way
mean.
up there.
Yeah.
That is definitely.
Ooh.
That rules. I don't know if that's in the live version, but I'm really glad it's there at all. And number 1 is just the guitar solo in I Kotoba Chotai, I think.
Also, a really good choice.
Nice.
Very good moment.
Also a title I screwed up, but yeah,
Oh, it's fine.
that's my 3.
Heck yeah. Well, I like the diversity in all of our top 3s because like this is one of the longer albums, like track list wise, that Fishmans have released, and yeah, there's just a lot of wacky moments to choose from. So yeah, overall, what scores would we give this? This is the first album by then that I would give a perfect 10 out of 10. Like the other ones didn't quite make it for me, but this one, like everything works. It's perfect.
Chops? I'm gonna let you go first.
I mean, I guess. I'm gonna say like a 9 because. Yeah,
Of Reindeer.
I think a 9. There's the only thing I could really say to make that it's not a 10 is that it's not like long season. That's my one criticism, I guess.
Didn't Ishmael say the same thing about something? I don't know. Either way, great criticism.
Maybe.
It's not long season, so that's why it's not perfect.
You could use that on a lot of music. Almost all music,
I think so.
maybe?
This is not long season.
We'll get there though. For me,
Yeah.
my personal
will arrive one
score.
day.
Yeah, it's a perfect album. It's I know I gave Corduroy's Mood
Corduroy.
a perfect score as well, but like this is like what Ray was saying. This is their truly like their first moment where they were so absolutely like beyond perfect. It seems this was
Yeah,
the first.
I really feel like this one is underrated a little bit. Like people think about it as like, oh, it's that wacky album.
That's
But
true.
it's not really regarded as like like people generally say like, oh, Fishmans didn't get good until like Kuchu Camp.
Or
But I think
Orange.
Fishmans got good right here.
I think Fishmans were always good, but I think now
They were always good,
All the way.
but they got great here.
I think it's kind of having a bit of a comeback, not like a huge one, but people are starting to come. I can see, at least just judging by like rating music scores, people are kind of coming around to it. It's like kind of going up a little bit, which is nice. I feel like it deserves it. But yeah, King Master George, it was like the first, I don't want to say the first Fishmans album I fell in love with, but it kind of was. Like honestly.
It was that for me.
Yeah, it was the one that because I really loved Long Season in the live album, but when I got to this point, I was like, "There's something different going on here," and I freaking love it. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a level of artistry here that they kind of go forward with that they didn't really have in like Chappie.
I guess so.
So yeah, any final thoughts on King Master George as an album?
I own it
Any
on vinyl,
ramblings?
so be jealous of me. All right.
Yeah, he does.
Get you.
How much did you pay for that?
Well, including shipping, like $90.
Honestly, worth it.
Yeah, not that bad. Like the album itself only came out to around like $60-$70. It's just shipping is insane, like from Japan. Like especially on that. I don't know if it's specific to that website, but I do pay. Oh, my voice just cracked there. Like that and Long Season, I paid so much for shipping.
Well, it's worth it. You're a better man because of it.
Thanks. I needed it.
And yeah, that is King Master George. We will be back next month with our review of Neo Yankees Holiday,
Oh boy.
the third album by Fishmans. Until then, please go check out King Master George, and please check out the live version of Doyobi no Yoru at the Liquid Room. It's amazing. And then for social media stuff, as always, you can find us at Fishmans Podcast on Instagram. And then personally, I am a giant fish.
I
Chris?
am gonk.aka.mantis. This is on Instagram, by the way.
Yeah, Chops, do you have any Instagram or like Twitter that you want to plug? Feel free.
Yeah, sure. Come follow me at One Piano River if you want to.
1 p.m. Oh, Is that on Instagram or?
Yeah, that's Instagram.
Nice. I still haven't made a Twitter for this podcast. I said I was going to do it. And I
Oh
never
yeah,
did.
we haven't.
I'll do it.
So yeah,
very
basically
optimized,
our schedule going forward is we're going to talk about Neo Yankees, and then we're going to talk about Orange, and then I think after that we're going to start doing some polls, kind of because we know that if we wait until the very end of the discography to do any song rankings, like none of the early songs are going to really be showing up. So we want to highlight those. So maybe once we're done with Orange, we will have just like ranking your top songs from that early period of Fishmans, so
feel like we should
see
do it
sort of like
after-
what the main tracks are there.
How about after
Or
O
O
Mountain?
Mountain.
I think that's better.
Yeah, yeah.
Either way,
We'll do that.
at that point, there will be polls. A lot of Polish people.
So that'll happen then. We'll let people know. Until then, keep staying fishy. Pouring gasoline on your fish. We love you.